this idea of possibilities. I love that idea and that sentiment, because I do think that that's so much about, sort of what spring is. It's like all these new growth possibilities, all of these different things that you can sort of grow in and try and experience. And so I'm thinking about clutter with possibilities, right? Because in a way, I feel like clutter limits our possibilities. Like when you have lots of stuff, again, because going back to what you said, our space and our environment is a mirror of us, of like what's going on within us, right? So let's talk about clutter and how that, sort of limits possibilities, this idea of clearing the clutter and how that factors in.
It's so powerful because I think of clutter like layers. You might not have traditional clutter, but you have things you've outgrown. And so I think especially for the season, it's a really wonderful time because it's a new year in all ways. We've now passed all the thresholds of a new year. We did the actual new year on January 1st. We did the lunar new year, the astrological new year. All the new years have happened. There's other new years in different cultures that have happened. We're really in the new year now. And there's this sense of, what have I outgrown? What's been lingering? I did something really interesting in the Feng Shui school. Right now we're doing a really deep dive into implementation of concepts. And I spent one night going through my desk. I'm sitting at a desk that's like 6 feet by 3 feet. I filled an entire trash bag with stuff that wasn't clutter a year ago. How did I do that? Like, I don't even know where it came from. I'm looking at this desk going, it's still full of stuff. Like, where did that stuff come from? But it was stuff that I literally could see was no longer a match for where I was headed, no longer a match for the way I was thinking, no longer a match. And it's interesting when you do this, you might look around and go, wow, the art on my walls is no longer a match for me, at least not where it is. Maybe this can go in the hallway or it could go someplace else. You start to see things differently. And I think sometimes it's very confronting because it's like, oh, that's a lot of change. But gradually, when you start getting rid of this stuff, like you said, it opens doors to so much possibility because you're saying, I don't need this old paradigm hanging around. I'm literally walking into a whole new way. And that is something to gradually move into. I don't think you need to quantum leap overnight and dump everything all at once. But I think for a lot of people, especially those listening who've been doing a lot of decluttering for the new year, they've really been doing a lot. This can be that final layer of stuff. Like I said, a whole trash bag from my desk was really shocking. I have a picture of it and I was like, I'm going to keep this picture as a reminder that this stuff can be lingering everywhere because we're growing. And when you're a person who's committed to growth and choosing to grow, you want those more possibilities. And clutter in general is the manifestation of being overwhelmed, which is common and it's nobody's fault. Having way too many decisions to make and you have decision fatigue, so you don't know what to do with it, so it stays. Again, nobody's fault. This is the world that we live in. An inundation of data where your mind is just like, I can't take on and think about another thing. And so it stays in the closet, it stays in the drawer, having too much to do, being too busy. These are all modern conditioned things that I think we can take on personally and say, I am messy. I have these issues. It's hard for me to let things go. I would say, give yourself a very big pass, a big break on that, and have a lot of compassion for yourself because clutter doesn't show up just for you. It's a universal thing. That's why every time I talk about clutter, everyone is on board because everyone has something that they can get rid of. And so, it does. It's the old paradigm. It's you want to be in the new. You want to have that space for the new. It's very powerful to clear it.
It is. And I love what you said about, when you were cleaning your desk, in that things that were not clutter a year ago were clutter now. I love that perspective because so many of us, look at clutter as like this stuff that we've been carrying around for, years and years. And that is true a lot of the time. It can be. But this idea that, you can also have seasonal changes of, you know, outgrowing something from a year ago, that it's no longer serving you, or perhaps it's, projects that you've already that you've completed. And you can actually do this, in your relationships and your space and in your work. What are the things that you're willing to let go of that maybe last year were really, really important and were the things that you were working on and growing into, but no longer serve you this year. So I love that you said that, because I do think that so many of us don't think about clutter that way. We just think of it as like all the stuff that's like just hanging around for years and years, rather than this sort of more gentle approach to it of saying, I'm constantly changing. And so my needs are constantly changing. So that was one thing that I loved that you just said, because it really opened up my eyes to even like looking at my desk where I'm, interviewing you right now and thinking, oh, yeah, I should probably do the same thing. And again, it's a mindset, right? If I come at the clutter clearing as, let's look at what doesn't serve me now that was serving me a year ago. I think it's a really beautiful way to put it. And then the other thing that you said was this idea of even moving things around in your home. Like maybe it really served a purpose in your bedroom, but you're looking at it and you're like, it doesn't feel like it fits here. Maybe I should move it to my living room or to my office or, whatever other space. Can you talk to us about that, about just like moving things around in the house or in your home environment and how that changes energy?
Absolutely. I mean, everything we have is invested with meaning. It's invested, whether we just like the way that it looks, there's something that, whether it's art, a piece of furniture, something that decor with a certain pop of color, whatever it is, something that it evokes within us. And
Hmm.
we have also memories of when we got it, where it came from, who might have given
Right.
it to us, what we
Yeah.
did, who came over the day it was installed or whatever it is. Everything is loaded with layers of information that we
Hmm.
know our connection to these objects. And that's why sometimes it's really comforting if you have something from, if you grew up in a house that you cherish and you have something from that house, it's really comforting to see it, because you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I see a whole world of memory in this mirror or in this, whatever it is, this knickknack. And so that's one reason, actually, just to put a little underline on that, why clutter is so difficult sometimes to get rid of, because
Yeah.
we can get attached to even the weirdest things, like a
Right.
pencil eraser. We could get it attached to
Right.
anything, and
Sure.
it's okay. It's normal. And
Hmm.
when you're looking at your space, how you want to feel changes over time. And I really believe that there are times where we stay stuck, not because we're bad or wrong or broken, but we're literally putting the pieces together for the next level. And
Hmm.
it's not that we're necessarily stuck, you're just not ready for that big leap, so to speak.
Hmm.
And I think there's something to be said for being okay with having been stagnant, having been idling in one place, having been growing slower than you wanted to grow. Rather than beating yourself up for it, it's about looking around and going, okay, this is the way things have been. This is the
Right.
influence I have been receiving. Is this how I want to feel in this space? And then you can start looking at objects and go, I love that plant, but I really don't love to see it every day. It reminds me of XYZ.
Right.
Maybe I should give it to
Right.
a friend, or maybe I
Yep.
should put it out on the patio where I'll think about it
Hmm.
in a new way. And this
Hmm.
is where you can start going, oh, I love this salt lamp that I have on my desk, but I never turn it on. It
Right.
makes me feel like I'm not using it. Is there a
Right.
place I could put it where I could use it?
Yeah.
And this is where these little
Mm.
questions, these little things, of course, there's so much more feng shui that you can learn and work with. But these are really the formative steps where you're starting to understand, I don't want this influence. If you put it in the perspective of people, you
Yeah.
know, when there's like a really
Yeah.
antagonistic person in a group
Hmm.
that's,
Hmm.
needling at you or making like really weird jokes or just really making people uncomfortable. And you would want to either find ways to, move out of that group or limit your contact. You would want to rearrange things so that you weren't
Sure.
in that person's purview. You don't want to
Yes.
be criticized. You don't want to get
Sure.
that energy in your life.
Right.
And it's the same thing for things in your space. Either you can get rid of them
Mhm.
or you can move them around so that they're not necessarily in your face.
Right.
And you can find ways to make the most of them or transform them. If you have an
Yes.
antagonistic person in a group, you might have a conversation with them and transform it, just like you might
Mhm.
repaint a piece of furniture and
Mhm.
change it, or do an energy clearing and
Mhm.
change it. And then you have a whole new perspective. But I
Mhm.
think everything is so united. I think the difference when you're working with home is that it's not usual to think of objects as having this sentient quality, like this
Right.
humanistic quality where
Sure.
objects can have a personality or evoke so much emotion,
Right.
but they really do.